Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. If you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for more of these episodes and podcasts. As I am the author of the recently released book, The Post-COVID Marketing Machine, and I'm working on a new book, which these interviews will be part of, which is called The AI Marketing Machine. And you can find out more information on this at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today I'm interviewing Neil Twa with Voltage Holdings. He's got an interesting background, and we were talking prior to this. He's been all the way back with Watkins. It's Watkins, right? With
Watson, yeah,
IBM.
the Watson Deep
Watson with
Blue Super Query
IBM.
Machine. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. And so anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Neil. He is the CEO and co-founder of Voltage Holdings, and it's a company specializing in launching, consulting, selling, and acquiring brands with a focus on the e-commerce channels such as Amazon, FBA, as well as multi-channel. With more than 15 years experience at selling private label products on Amazon and his company, it looks like it's a perfect opportunity to talk to him about AI and marketing. Welcome, Neil. So good to have you.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Guy.
Absolutely. So tell us, what is your backstory on AI and marketing?
Yeah, we all know the story of the internet, right? It saved me from my terrible experience in college where I didn't want to be there anyways, and I was failing out and had no, idea what I was going to do. And the internet came online. I'm like, hey, I want to do that, whatever that is exactly. E-commerce. I knew I didn't really want to be in the hardware space. That's kind of where I started out and putting the dip switches together and making the machines and all that stuff, and into the technology of networking, where a lot of my friends and stuff went. In that age group, I was into the business side. How do I make money with these things? How do I utilize them as a tool and not just how do I work on them? And as I got forward to that and eventually worked my way into IBM and up into the top echelon of technology and development, and they have 18,000 patents they push out every year in RMUC. They're a machine and a think tank and just a engine of ingenuity. And with that, I learned a lot of different things about the way to think about technology and growth, and ran into a couple of projects in which technology it was leading the forefront of things like human machine interface, human machine language learning, large language models, machine development, and even touching into theories and concepts of quantum computing and quantum entanglement and all that stuff, which just, man, like I'd sit and listen to these guys and just have my mind blown, just gathering the knowledge as I listened as to what they were doing and theorizing, and then being able to see it actually come to a reality as part of those projects was fascinating. But that was so long ago. When people, like I mentioned, talk about AI and stuff, I think very differently about it in terms of its ability to do things and apply things, not just simple prompts, but its ability to become an agent, a source of truth, a source of execution, a replica of me, a force multiplier, if you will, in the way that we do things. And we've even found it becoming very accurate in some of the efforts we use for listing and copy and creation, which is the marketing side, the engine of building the narrative around a physical product and a brand no one's ever heard of. And as we get into that and learn about the way these systems work and the way they can be translated back to this huge knowledge base of information, it really gets down to you being smart enough to figure out how to tell it what to do and get the right outputs at this point. And because it's not yet doing that for us, but I have a feeling it's coming very quickly, which means we're going to have to be smarter about how we manage and operate it, or we'll be replaced by it at some level. I know everybody thinks it's the factory worker or something that's all going to be replaced. Well, no, that guy who is actually at the machine control level is going to be the one who wins the day. Maybe not the guy who's running the machine, but eventually it'll be the ones who understand how to manage them. It's going to elevate the need for this value. And then there's somewhere in the middle level of the corporate world where I would not want to be right now.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because the factory worker or the physical worker, as opposed to the knowledge worker, the physical worker will certainly have some impact, but I think the knowledge worker is already being impacted in a big way.
Greatly.
And to your point, one thing that I've started to do now is not only do I write the prompt, try and write the prompts myself, and then you go through a handful of iterations, depending upon how complex the answer is that you're looking for.
That's right.
But I also ask AI to write the prompt for me and to give me to support that process and even speed that process. And it's really helping out a lot. But it does impact. I think it will impact, like you were saying, that the knowledge worker in a pretty big way.
It really will. The middle range knowledge worker, something I did in the past, I can very easily see now where I would have had to elevate myself above that position and goal in order to basically make it relevant, the role relevant anymore, honestly, because the role can be easily replaced through uploading all the different documentation, the books, the materials, connectivity to all the databases and stuff, and then using that as a resource guide to actually train that AI, train that agent into things that obviously create a replication. And as I mentioned earlier, create a force multiplier of you to others, or train you down to others who can basically become you in the use of that agent. And one of the ways we do that inside of the e-commerce world is we will take all the data and information about a particular brand type that we're going to target, that we want to build, and the physical product line that we want to utilize. And we use AI for the product research. We use it for the images. We use it for the copy coordination and even the building of the avatar. And then what we would normally have done is taken that out to a focus group and say, hey, here's all these components. What do you like? What would you give us feedback? What would be the proper language? What makes sense to you? What answers the top 3 questions in your head about the solution-oriented aspect of this product? And they would give us this great information. We use that to build the listing copy and marketing around this new brand. And it's been very great. It's been very good because you're getting a human feedback. We took that, and my partner actually built an agent and fed all that information and data and started to train it through it. And it's become so accurate that we did a split test across 7 of our brands, and we applied 7 of those out to the market process we had, and 7 of them into a virtual group of this agent that went out and acted as though it was a survey group. 100% accuracy. And we were blown away.
It's interesting that you say that. One thing that I found, or seem to be finding, is that for bigger brands, bigger, maybe more mature, more well-researched brands, you think of like Procter and Gamble and Unilever, when you use AI, it basically only regurgitates what you already know. And that's the comment almost verbatim.
Sure.
Whereas with smaller brands with less research behind them and less whatever, and that, I don't know, market research or analytics or insights behind them, it really helps them out quite a bit because they haven't had that level of capability with being able to ask those questions, or they just haven't had the funding or whatever to go out to a focus group. I don't know if you've seen anything like that.
Yeah, I would argue that is just a behemoth feeling like they're untouchable, and the agile speedster of entrepreneurialism and a free market economy coming to basically eat their lunch. And if they're not willing to do and say that these things don't work, it's usually the people in there who are not willing to do it because they realize the relevancy of their job is in the line. If they do it too well, and they'll get replaced, literally. So they say it's not valuable. I would say go look at Good to Great with Jim Collins and realize that the companies that were adapting the agility marketplace thought process as a very large company became great companies because they weren't doing this.
Yeah,
which is what you just suggested. Yeah. They were doing this. Now, what happened is because they were unwilling to move with the market, Walgreens, which is a case study in that book, is now crashing and going bankrupt.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they were unwilling to move.
Well, it seems like they go through phases on stuff like that, because when you look at all of the Good to Great companies, they're not in there anymore. So
no,
how did
they're not so good to great anymore. Yeah,
I know. So maybe you're right.
They got a little too far. Yeah, and then you see the agility of a free market enterprise starting to eat their
absolutely.
Lunch, right?
Absolutely.
And so I love that concept because this enables tool sets and capabilities for the right sort of entrepreneurial mindset in the kind of business they're in to take and adapt it. Now, if you're brand new to the idea and you're like, I'd like to make money with AI, be careful, because it's changing so fast that you might not exactly figure out how to put yourself into a place to make money with it unless you're deploying some unique SaaS position or others. And I'll tell you, there's 7 or 10 of those companies popping up every week. So where your real opportunity is, how do I leverage something I know of intrinsic value and the nature and experience that I have and leverage that into utilizing AI to make it go faster, bigger, greater, and more profitable? And if I can do that aspect and tie AI in, I will have a place in this coming new economic future in 2025 and beyond. That's how we have seen the last 2 years of adapting AI into all of our processes, systems, technology, our own software and interfaces we do with it, and the way we analyze data, profit and loss, financials, product research, operations, and logistics down to our PPC marketing is all now being automated through agents and processes to simply make it more agile, makes it faster, makes it easier to deploy.
Yeah, that's definitely happening. I think you're so right that there's that agentic process of really going after very specific things. And then there are so many companies coming that are just popping up. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, find your niche, carve it out. People seem to think that the niche means restriction, that the niche means no growth, that the niche doesn't mean you can't have an 8-figure, multi-7-figure business. And that's not true. In actuality, the niche is where you will make a multi-7-figure, 8-figure business. If you're too wide, too unfocused, you will fail at this business of any kind, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get back to, not that we were far away from it, but let's get back
Yeah.
to a little bit of the nuts and bolts marketing and things like that. One of the things that's fascinating with marketing is the opportunity to do a lot of experimentation. And that's the way it's been up until a few years ago. And now AI is supporting that, improving that, and potentially even eliminating that. Tell us a little bit about your experiences there.
My firsthand experience is operating around systems and platforms that are deploying it like crazy. You see it with TikTok Shop and their algorithmic changes and the way they move demand creation across videos and now very much into live streams. You see it with Meta that had to go backpedal against all their data problems and their lawsuits in order to rechange the way they're turning into more of a display engine. YouTube with its algorithmic changes and the way that it's allowing nobodies to join up 50, 100,000 or more subscribers and push content out into the millions and decamillions and more. And with Amazon, you also see it because the ability to deploy it to better product, more focused data has actually turned their projections into becoming a digital marketing company by 2026, right? They're moving out of the most profitable system of AWS and it's actually shifting the P&L up to advertising as their most important revenue. With things like Free and Twitch, Freevee they bought and Twitch, and they got the Prime platform and stuff, they're using that data and analytics to really push forward their products and services, which is changing greatly with things like Cosmo, which will be the replacement to the way its engine works using AI large language to determine what you're going to buy and predictive search analysis down to the best example I can give you in your brain is like a Minority Report. It is going to determine what you are and know who you are by what you watched and only present products to you that are the most hyper relevant to something that is relevant to you, which is going to change the game for advertising, especially if you're watching their shows or getting on their web or going around anywhere else. Rufus is another one they've deployed for customer support and validation of product buying and decision making, which is something that we're playing around with as a third-party seller to determine how to get customers more in tune with our products faster through using that kind of system. So we can just see the writing on the wall with these platforms deploying so much. And by the way, Bezos is coming back for a while to go deploy 80 billion in capital to AI and Amazon. So this is going to be a fascinating next 18 months. Yeah. See that come down. Just the systems by which we operate in consumer world are going to change, right? AI is analyzing and determining all our buying and selling history, our visibility, and when we're on our phone, where we go and what we do, and then presenting us with the best car we think we're going to buy from Carvana, right? And putting it right in front of us in just in time. I see it in the deployment of the brands and physical products where others might see it in their real estate world or their marketing world. From the marketing perspective, it's giving us tremendous insights into dialing into not just a specific generic demographic of an avatar, a 47-year-old woman who likes cooking and lives in Texas, down to all the other 50 bajillion data points that tie her backwards to the just-in-time message, ability to create images and graphics on the fly that resonate with her in terms of her visual acuity and purchasing, down to the copy that's generated out in huge amounts very quickly to help us split test all these different narratives very quickly, to the literal videos that are being created with AI now that are becoming so hyper realistic. I can put a product in a video for 30 seconds that was never filmed anywhere. And photo shoots that don't have any on site. We used to do full on site photo shoots. We'd rent sometimes if we needed high end houses with the kitchens and stuff. And now we can put that product in the middle of those locations without ever going and doing a photo shoot. The ability to market and agility is just increasing tremendously.
Yeah, and that personalization and hyper personalization is just incredible. And you're right. I think it's just going to keep on going. That's what we do as well, is how do we move it even further and further. And I hadn't thought about actually generating images or even videos, so to speak, on the fly, but you certainly could do that. And
absolutely put product placement in anywhere, any location with 10 different kinds of models to see which one resonates, with 10 women and 10 men to see which one generates the most interest. Down to what color their skin they have or their hair they have or what clothes they're wearing or what scene they're setting in. You'll be able to quickly disseminate all those different things into our advertising to be able to figure out exactly where this line of 30 seconds or less is from the time they see our product and advertising to the time they buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that'll lead to a creepiness factor of
100% creepy? If you watch the Minority Report, I don't want to be tracked that much.
I don't want to be sleeping there in that water bath.
Oh no, I don't want the billboards to change and be creepy following me around. I'm an advocate for tech, but maybe I'm just getting older to some degree, and there's just certain amounts of privacy that I would still like to keep. And I think that we've so much of our privacy and out there, we all have to some degree, some a little farther, some a little less. But I personally want to put myself in a position where I can take advantage of it to a certain point. And then at that certain point where I'm like, okay, that's enough, I can just shut the whole thing off and walk off into my
Yeah,
50 acres
yeah,
here and
yeah.
just leave it alone.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were saying there's going to be a new tourism, I don't know, event or whatever it is, or challenge, and that is go without any kind of digital connection or whatever for 1 week. Just go somewhere and turn off everything, even have to get a paper map and learn how to read the map again and
Both of
stuff
man,
like that.
we used to do that when we were driving. How dumb were we,
I
right?
know. Guilty as charged on
Oh,
that. You couldn't even see the
like turning
road. You're
that
trying to
thing, and
figure out where
that
you're
was as
at.
bad as cell phones right in our hands. Hey, well, hold on, people criticize you for texting and driving, but we were doing it with maps in our hands. Come on, man,
No.
with no kid seat belted in, and we were riding the
Yep.
back of the truck. I
Yeah,
mean, hello.
absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that's interesting, though, is which I think gets into that point a little bit is there has to be a balance between kind of the human generated and then the AI generated.
Yes.
And I don't know, what kind of thoughts do you have there?
Well, I happen to know for the fact that the direct response media channel of mailing, direct response mailing, the demographics on that and who's actually buying have changed dramatic since 2020. I don't know if you followed up on this. It's the oldest marketplace to determine quality of marketing is direct response in mailing, direct mailing. And it's changed. The 18 to 35-year-old demographic is now the largest buying demographic off of mail. So they have been desensitized to all the online marketing advertising they lived for their entire life under the barrage of it. And they're finding that it's less trustworthy for certain brands, types, or purchases, and they're actually enjoying getting the mail they don't normally get and then buying stuff off of the mail. There's a cyclical emotional cycle of a change that occurs in every culture, every business, every product, every person, really, at the end of the day. Whenever we make changes or decide to make changes or some impact or cultural or geopolitical or whatever it is impacts a change that occurs that we're forced to get into or we volunteer to get into by choosing to do, and it creates that control and that roller coaster a little bit. And I think we're going through another cyclical change as AI adopts more people into it, as we see systems of cryptocurrencies and utility currencies and techno currencies coming online, and AI being a component of that piece, as we see geopolitical changes and potential changes in the way we do and get products and move products, specifically for our type of business. It's one of the things we got to keep a pulse on, and just the future marketability of any product online or service, and what that actually means. I think we're seeing a cyclical change right now that if anybody was to predict in the next 3 years, I think they're going to be wrong. I'm simply not going to try to do it because I think we've entered a position of cyclical change that is a new frontier for our culture, and especially for America, that is going to really define a new norm to some degree. We came through a major forced one in 2020, and that's changed some things for sure. I think we're on the cusp of another one.
Yeah, we've certainly, I don't know, maybe over the last 10 years, seen a rebound in some of the traditional media, like you were saying, direct mail, but even print magazines and newspapers, as well as even out of home, becoming surprisingly effective because of its impact at certain levels of the purchase funnel. Things like that are coming back, and maybe we are just getting tired of, or maybe we're just so successful at skipping past that all of those display ads and what have you.
Yeah, that's consumerism in its purest form to a degree. It was exciting to consume things through the 70s, 80s, and 90s because so much was changing so fast, so much technology was growing so quickly. You've seen the picture with the guy that has 27 devices and it's now this all fits in your pocket. So it really gets to a point, there's some point in everything where there becomes a diminishing return. And it's either because it doesn't affect your time as much, it's different for your wallet, either you have more money or not enough to deal with the changes anyway, is one of the major factors in each one of those. Or something in your life has changed you that causes you to think differently about it. Maybe it's just, I'm no longer important. Maybe I don't think that's as great as it was anymore. I've asked a lot of my friends, how are they feeling about things? And some of them who have normally been very aggressive type A personalities are just like, I'm going to let it ride. And I'm like, are you feeling well? No, I just feel like I got to let this ride for a little while and see where the next changes go. And it's a pulse in my level of business that I've been asking others, and they're, no, we're aggressive, but we're just not that aggressive at the moment. We're going to wait, and there's a wait, and there's a cyclical, something's changing, and everybody's waiting to figure out what that looks like. And it's not just the U.S. I've talked to friends and people in all over the world, and it's a universal feeling. It's very strange. I don't know if you noticed that, Guy, about the conversations you're having, but there's some sort of universal feeling that we're reaching some diminishing return on all of the things we have and all the consumerism stuff. And while I'm a physical product owner and I want people to consume more, I want them to do it for the right reason, so they become brand attached.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is very different than just pure consumerism. for the sake of getting things. And I think
Yeah.
there's a point in which we have enough of everything for all people. It's just that not everybody has access to it, right?
Mm.
There's plenty of money flowing. And if you feel like it's scarce to you, then it's because you're just not near it right now. It's moved, it's a shifting
Mm.
river of change, and you may not be near it. And as much as you might want to coax it towards you, you're going to have to figure out how to get closer to it. Because if you're not in front of it right now, you're going to have to change and pivot and move to get in front of it. And that may be changing your offer, changing your service, changing the way you approach your marketing, changing which products or services you move, and changing the way you think about who's buying it. And maybe changing
Yeah.
avatars a little bit. You're just
Well,
going to
I
have
think
to
it,
start asking those questions.
yeah, I think those changes also lead to a lot more intelligence is needed at the brand level and at the brand management level, and which kind of brings in what are the kind of the new skills that are going to be more and more valuable. Is it going to be strategic thinking, or is it going to be something as simple yet complex as prompt engineering or interpretation? What do you
It's
kind of
not as
see
gonna.
there?
It's not gonna be, in my opinion, not as technical as that. Where it's actually, because I'm looking to hire a brand manager right now for our product brands and brands that we're developing at a certain level of pace in the next year. So I'm actually looking for a brand manager, and what I'm looking for in that is, as I've shifted through the last couple of years, I see what I feel the writing on the wall is for brands, and that consumer-driven nature changing and adapting. The very smart consumer available of information, technology, and AI gives them faster speed and access. It's now coming out on their phones. We're really looking at how do we get back to that brand narrative? How do we get back to that more personalized relationship? How do we look at brands we're going to build that have a very tight connectivity to the customer and what they need, and empathetic and compassionate connectivity to them, or products and brands we're buying, in which we can very easily see that the affect of that business isn't just its profit or where it may go, it's that it has a personal connectivity and a brand narrative driven effect to it, because we see that becoming the most impactful thing in the next 2-3 years that is going to change for all products and services. With the increase of information, the AI, and so much content now showing up, and so many reels and so much overload, it is going to become more intentional for us to get out as business owners, business leaders, and do things like podcast or go to summits or build this brand driven narrative that has gotten a little bland in the last few years just by pure consumerism. And with that, I think we're seeing that cyclical cycle of change, and I'm feeling the need to drive our brands and strategy towards that more close connectivity and that more strong brand narrative. Hence the need for a brand manager to get in and really dial in those brands and the ones that are growing and the new ones coming, so that we get that narrative conversation, that real audience connectivity going, that I feel is going to be a major change in the way things are done next.
It's interesting, and unfortunately, we're going to have to cut this short here. It's been great, but one thing though that leads to, and one of the questions I like to ask is, so how does that impact an up and coming marketer, and what would you recommend? What kind of advice would you give them as they're about to enter into this AI world, where they have a lot of skills, but they really don't necessarily have the next level of skills that might be necessary?
I think it's going to get down to, at the speed at which information is changing, I personally am not an advocate for my daughters going to college. Okay. Because in the time frame it's going to take them to learn some of the skills that they would learn there, if they are not adapted to learning where the market conditions are going to go, they will be behind by the time they graduate. They will be behind in most every major impact that a business or a business person can have in the marketplace. So I'm not an advocate for that. I'm an advocate for them deciding where they're going to go and finding them a mentor or being a mentor to them in those positions in which I can help them figure that out. So for the business owners, I'm challenging them to say, hey, look, if you need to understand where you're going, most likely you're going to need a mentor and a coach to help guide you at the next steps. Those who have already done it or are already seeing it work, they're going to need to get in front of you. It's been critical before, but I think it's been missed on a lot of people, quite honestly, because some of us are in the application day-to-day driving trenches of this. And if you think theory or learning education without application is going to get you to the next level, you're going to be behind. You're going to fall behind the people that are already adapting, imperfectly executing right now through how to figure this out, how to prompt it, control it, or benefit from it in their existing business or a new business. You're going to be behind. So we are in that, we're in that forefront that I saw when I saw the internet come online between 96 and 99, where we were just literally in there figuring out how to run the machines, right? How to network them, put them together. They were coming out faster than we could get the new ones out. Nobody knew how to put that together. So that's why I went in the corporate world, because that's where the money was being spent in order to even figure this out. And I think AI feels a lot like that. It feels like a second major shifting change in our generation, where right now, if you're just not in it every day, figuring out how it applies to you, how you can benefit or make money from it, you're going to be behind. You're going to fall off. And then you'll end up just becoming a slave to the system of it and where it is using you. And heck, your manager might become an AI agent.
I like your point though about, do kids now need to go to college, so to speak? And are they going to be coming out behind people that didn't go to college but spent really that
I
time
think
and
it's
effort
track
on
based,
really something a little more specific?
to make it very succinct and not so broad, to be very succinct, it's certain tracks I would see that college or certifications are required simply because of the aftermarket applications
Yeah.
of a license
Yeah.
or a training. If you're going to be a doctor, you got to go get licensed. If you're going to be an accountant, you need to be a practicing accountant certified. If you're going to be an electrician or a carpenter or a plumber, you can't just walk into somebody's house and start doing all that crap. There's liabilities. So certain tracks or trades, you're going to have to follow certified tracks, but everything else is open. Everything
Well, but
else,
even
the other
though,
90% is wide open.
even though to some extent, but one of my buddies, he's a director of marketing at a service company, without
Uh-huh.
bringing it up, but one of the things that they're doing is they service every type of machine that was ever produced over the last 100 years, and they put all of the service manuals into AI. And so now you, as the technician, and I don't mean to denigrate it, but you just need to
The tool.
know how to turn the screw and hit the hammer and do this, and then you just follow the instructions that AI is giving you out of all of those manuals that are now in there.
100%. It just comes down to the business owner's liability, the
Yeah, that
insurance covered,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
and the person who goes in and
Yeah,
rewires a home incorrectly and it burns to the ground
yeah.
because,
Well,
well,
so you
AI
have
didn't
then,
tell me.
yeah, you have then these knowledge workers on the other hand, and you have these people that work with their hands, including doctors, and maybe
You
even
have
including
both.
accountants
Yeah.
and welders and whatever.
Right. AI told me I should cauterize this part of the heart when that was actually the wrong answer because I didn't know. I wasn't sure how to answer it the right way. So I decided to just take his heart out. And I'm like, whoops. Oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah, big whoops.
Right.
Neil, thank you so much. I hate to cut us off here.
No,
I could
Guy, it's
go
been a
on for
pleasure.
another hour,
Thank
but
you.
really fascinating. Where can people find out more about you and your company and what you're
Yeah.
doing? What's the best way to reach out?
If you're an aspiring or a current entrepreneur in the physical product, private label world, and marketing of those things, and brand building is something you're curious about, go to voltagedm.com, go to voltagedigitalmarketing.com. Check out the free trainings, check out my book, check out our virtual live summit, check out the podcast, the High Voltage Business Builder podcast, and all the resources there that help you get a good understanding of what it means to become a CEO operator of a brand driven business.
Fantastic. So voltagedm.com. So
That's
Neil,
it.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And to the audience, certainly please stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of marketing and AI. And if you get a chance, please go to marketingmachine.prorelevant.com and download some valuable excerpts there from my existing books and also learn about my up and coming book. Neil, thank you so much. It's so good to have you.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.